Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. I'm KeyLowk and today we're going to be rating TANJIRO, the Demon Slayer. This build is created by the Gamertag Dad. As always, I'll be going over the pros and cons of this build and giving my opinion on it. If you don't know who the Gamertag Dad is, then I suggest that you go check his channel out. That should come up on the screen right here. This content creator specializes in making his own builds and also cosplay builds from anime characters and also other video game franchise characters such as Kratos and Thor and so much more. So if that sounds like your thing, then please go check his channel out, and while you're there, go sub to him or just go watch his content, because every creator does appreciate that. As always, before we jump into the content, I'll give you all a quick overview of how we judge the builds that we rate. Anyways, let's get it. This is just a quick overview before we jump into the content. There are 3 categories that we judge the entire build on. Each category gets a score from 1 to 10 and the build gets an overall score of 30. We rate builds on 3 things: the drip, so how awesome does the build look; PvE, how much damage this build can produce, and how well does it actually work against enemies and bosses in the game; and last but not least, PvP, so how well does this work against other players. Each section gets a score from 1 to 10 and the build gets an overall score of 30. Before we get into the content, I just want to say that I don't have any malicious intent, harm or agenda on these content creators' builds that I rate. I thought this was a really fun idea to bring to life, and I have the utmost respect for all content creators on this platform grinding it every day to create content for us to enjoy. Anyways, that's enough for this part, so let's get into the content. From first impressions, this build looks simple and clean. I actually really do like the look of this build straight off the bat. This type of style won't tickle everyone's noodle, but it tickles mine. This build is rocking the Preceptor's long gown, the altered version, and from the images of TANJIRO, excuse the pronunciation, the comparison with this build is pretty damn close to what TANJIRO actually wears. So for me, I'm actually impressed with that, not gonna lie. Then he also has the Preceptor's trousers to complete the look. So in my opinion, he has done a pretty damn good job trying to replicate TANJIRO. We all know it will never look the exact same to the anime. I mean, look at Nami from One Piece, but this is close enough in my opinion. He is also wielding the Nagakiba plus 25, which can be found either completing Yura's questline or killing Yura. If it's your first playthrough, then I'd suggest completing Yura's questline. Anyway, this is to suit Tanjiro's black blade, which I thought was smart. Also, who doesn't like katanas? The sword reminds me of one of my favourite antagonist swords, which is Sephiroth from Final Fantasy VII. So for me, I'm going to be a little biased and give that an extra point. Personally, for me, the only thing that I don't like is probably the red hair, but I do understand what he was trying to do here. Apart from that, I do like the look of this build. The only thing that's really missing from this build is the box on his back, because we all know you simping weebs be loving what's in that box that TANJIRO has on. Yes, I'm talking to all you sussy buckers. Me personally though, I actually like the look of this build. It's simple, clean, and it has an overwhelming longsword. And who doesn't like longswords? Anyways, I am actually going to give this a rating of 6.5 out of 10. I was going to give this a solid 7, but there are better looking builds in Elden Ring than this one in my opinion. I really don't have any complaints with this build looks wise, apart from the hair, but I am not going to deduct the point just for a hair color. So we will keep this short and sweet and move on to the next section. Let's get it! So, for the starting class, you can either pick the Warrior, Confessor, Vagabond, or the Samurai. And for this build, I picked the Samurai. The Gamertag Dad also said that this was a dexterity build, the Ash of War on the Nagakiba is the Flame Strike, as the Gamertag dad wants to try emulate the fire breathing technique from the show Demon Slayer, which is a nice touch for the cosplay. The talismans on this build is the Shard of Alexander, the Fire Scorpion Charm, the Rotten Wings Sword Insignia, and the last one is Millicent's Prosthesis. The Gamertag dad did say that you can change these up to suit your playstyle, so in this instance I may change one or two up for the PvP part of the section, but we will see. I also went with the Finger Seal plus 25 as it's the first one you find in the game, and the incantations that are running on this build is Flame Grant Me Strength and also Golden Bell. And the physic, we have the Flame Shrouding Crack Tear to temporarily boost fire attacks, and the Faith Knot Crystal Tear, which temporarily boosts faith. With all that said and done, this is all the stats. You should be left with 5 more points because Millicent's Prosthesis gives you 5 extra dexterity points. So just keep that in mind, and that's also to reach the 150 level. So I ended up putting the extra 5 points into endurance, mainly for the PvP aspect for this content. But feel free to put the extra 5 points into anything that you feel would suit your playstyle. Anyways, let's get on to the content. Let's get it. As you can see here, I quickly do Golden Vow and Fire Grant Me Strength, and I also saw this fight in the Gamertag dad's video, so I thought I would give it a go too. I actually enjoyed this fight as well. So as you can see with the light roll, he goes pretty far, you know what I mean? Which is its biggest advantage in this build. Then I did the Flame Strike.
Nice.
Just so I can demonstrate how much damage the Ash of War actually does. Also, the fire that's imbued on the Nagakiba looks so damn cool. As you can see, jumping attacks are good. Rolling attacks with the R1 is good. I almost died here. Anyways, GG's. We got this. I also saw in Gamertag dad's clip that he faced this massive gargoyle thing, so I figured I would also give it a go. This build is very proficient in rolling around without actually getting hit. I missed the crit here, and I accidentally jumped back, so I figured a jump attack would do. And as you can tell, I ended up beating him. Now this fight here, I actually really enjoyed it. It was the Draconic Tree Sentinel. This was an actual really good fight for me. Look at the damage that I just took. So this is probably my third go at facing the Tree Sentinel, just so you guys know. Get out of the way. Got smashed there. There you go, there you go, out of there. As you can see, it is a hit and run type build. It's a bit sad, but I ran out of stamina here. And we get the final blow. I thought I would just show you what this build has against a pretty big boss, just to show you what this build can actually do. And I did use the blood grease on this. I do know that the fire giant is resistant to the bleed effect, but he is not immune, so just keep that in mind. using fire on the fire giant. That's ironic. That light roll was so damn good on this build. Just waiting for him to try and make a move. Those balls of fire, they're annoying. They're really annoying. I just got smashed. Oh, got smashed again. Have a look at this. It's 5k damage. Now this part here was pretty funny. For some odd reason he must have got glitched or something like that, so I thought I'd put this in because it's actually kind of funny. So the bleed effect did work in this, and it went from 3,600 to 9k and more. So the bleed effect does work on the fire giant. Let me just start off by saying that this build is fun. It really is a different style to play with, and I kind of liked it. It's interesting, and something that most players probably wouldn't use in their first playthrough, but it really nails down the fun factor on this build. You can get some decent damage with the Ash of War, which I was roughly hitting enemies at about 1500 to 2k damage, so I'll put some respect on that. The playstyle of this build is a hit and run playstyle, which for me personally, I actually enjoyed. When you shoot in, hit the enemy, and at the right time dodge, you feel like the evasion king. Also, light rolling is going to be your best friend with this build, and skill. The FP consumption for the Ash of War is really good. It uses 4 FP for its first attack, and then the follow-up attack uses 10 FP, which altogether is 14 FP, which is really good in my opinion. Having more HP flasks to heal you is definitely a must on this build. The cons to this build is that it barely has any physical damage negation, so you cannot tank any hits. I'm glad that I put the last 5 points into my stamina, because this build really does need it. I found myself running out of stam quite a bit with this build for PvE, so yeah. I do recall the Gamertag dad said something that in Demon Slayer they have a recovery breathing technique or something like that, and he did try replicate that, and not gonna lie, he replicated that really well in my opinion. So well that in the Draconic Tree Sentinel fight, I couldn't roll out of the way due to it. Apart from that, this build to me is insanely fun. With all this being said, I'm going to give this 7 out of 10 for PvE. This build is not horrible, so don't class that out. And I think after getting used to the build, I really started liking the hit and run style, which basically grew on me when I was reviewing this build. Anyways, on to the next one. Before we get into this part of the content, I just want to point out that this build is mainly for cosplay purposes and PvE. So this build is not intended for PvP purposes, but for this video, we will be putting it through the grinder of PvP and trying our best to show how good this build is. Can Tanjiro slay these demons in PvP? Let's find out together. As usual, we do our emotes. I thought with this section here, I would fast forward the parts where we're not attacking anyone or where we're not attacking each other, just so you can see the whole entire fight. So as you can see, this one was a little bit of a laggy fight. Sorry about that. See how the light roll is superior on this? I can't believe I missed the charge R2 on that. I should have kept tapping R1 just to get 1 or 2 hits in. People with a lot of poise can just tank your hits. But anyways, GG's. I kept this fight in just for this.
You're beautiful.
This was a rematch fight, so I was still getting used to the build with spacing, with the range of the weapon, and everything else. Right now we're just sussing each other out. There you go, jump attack. Still a very good attack. I tried to jump attack him again. I thought I could get him because of the range. that light roll is just so strong here. As you can see, charge attacks are okay, but you tend to miss quite a lot. I thought I could bait an attack here. You got a charged R2 and then a R1. I'm starting to learn more and more that you really have to wait around till other people do emotes, because I did mine first and he started running up to me, see, and as you can tell he started hunting me down, so I figured I will just spam R1 because I knew that I was going to go GG's. I decided to use some boiled crab as it greatly boosts physical damage negation. I knew this guy was a strength build, so I thought he would tank my hits. Jump attack. Roll, then R1. Easy mate, easy. GG's. On this one I wasn't too sure if they were going to emote, so I was hesitant. Look at my health, I'm really low on health. We do a charge attack, then it's just waiting for me to roll catch. GG's. This guy did not emote and he thought he could come close. He thought that Bloodhound step would intimidate me. While he has the Frost Affinity, I have fire breathing technique. I haven't really watched a show so yet. This guy thought he could poke his way to victory. He was wrong. GG's. Don't worry, all my fights weren't all wins. Some of them looked like this. And this. And this. And also this. But then we also had this round, which I had to put in, which was probably the highlight of this experience. I thought it was just hilarious, in my opinion. This is all we did for the whole round, we'll just muck around and troll each other. So not every round is all sweaty and whatnot. And at the end of it, we gave each other emotes and we went on our way. Now, all I'm going to say with this one is don't be like this guy. As you can tell, I did my emote, but he just came running for me. He was ready to kill. And I just started spamming R1. I almost had him. Oh yeah, just don't be this guy. In all honesty, I'm surprised that this build did well here. I expected it to be a bit of a challenge, and not gonna lie, it was at the start. But I was trying to adapt my thinking to the playstyle of this build. That was the hard part. Apart from that, rolling into the opponent in R1 is a really solid horizontal attack, especially with the range of the Nagakiba. It becomes a really good offensive tool. The next best attack is probably the jump attack. These two attacks, apart from the Ash of War, will be your go-to moves for PvE and PvP. The R2 charge attack is okay in PvP. I thought that this attack here would be my go-to, but it's definitely a situational move, but that was just through my experience. It may be different for you. And the light roll is really strong as well. For the cons on this build for PvP is really just the damage negation and the poise on this build, so you can get staggered quite easily. If you do decide to play with this build, just keep in mind that this entire build is based on a hit and run playstyle. I did lose more than I actually won, but the clips I have here are the highlights from 3 hours of PvP dueling with this build. All in all, this build is still insanely fun to play in PvP. So with that being said, I'm going to rate this a 6 out of 10 for PvP. Also, don't get me wrong, I'm not a PvP expert. I'm just an average gamer trying to find some good all-round builds to review. Anyways, onto the final part of the video. So, let's go over the pros and cons that actually matter so you can make your mind up if this build is a right fit for you. I think this has a few highlights to this build. The range of the weapon is definitely one of them, mixed out with light roll and R1 attack, and it becomes a evasive god with long range horizontal attacks. The jump attack is also really strong for PvE and PvP, which deals decent damage in both areas. And the Ash of War has decent damage to it as well. It's a nice touch when the sword is imbued with fire from the Ash of War as well. The moveset is also good with the weapon, so you can't really complain there as well. Now for the cons of this build. Its biggest highlight can also be its biggest downfall in this build, which is a hit and run playstyle, just due to the fact that it does not have much damage negation to physical or magic attacks as well, so just be wary of this. The next con to this build is the stamina. There was times where I ran out of stamina while I had the opportunity to evade the enemy that was attacking me, or I attack when I found an opening. So you have to keep an eye out for that. The R2 or the charge attack is good for PvE, but not so much for PvP through my experience. So just watch out for that one in my opinion. All in all, this really is a insanely fun build, depending on your playstyle. So let's look at the scoring board to see how well this build did. For drip, I gave this a 6.5 out of 10. For PvE, I gave this a 7 out of 10. And for PvP, I gave this a 6 out of 10. That gives us a grand total of 19.5 out of 30. In my opinion, this build is not for beginners who are just starting out, but more for intermediate to advanced players who just want a little bit more of a challenge. Would I personally play with this build in PvE again? Yeah, I would. I definitely would. Would I play with this build for PvP again? If I wanted to just play around and have fun, then definitely yes. But if I was taking PvP seriously, then probably not. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the content. If you did, then give the content a like and the channel a subscribe if you would like to see more content like this. And if you disagree or agree with anything that I have said, then let me know in the comments section. If you like this video, then you're probably going to like the next one, which will be somewhere on screen. Anyways, everyone have a blessed day or night, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!